Well, hello, good evening. I did not tell anyone I was going to try to pull off this live stream, but I was talking to the customer that has this white rotary machine who's picking it up tomorrow at 11 o'clock. Really a nice fellow. His name is Richard. He's got a number of disabilities, but they really don't hold him back much at all. He loves to step out there as much as he can and really surprise people with his independence. And so when he came to me with this white rotary, it's got a beautiful bentwood cover type cover on it. He said, I acquired this from some friends and I don't know if it'll sew. I don't know what it'll do, but he had real high hopes as far as using it for leather sewing. And that's still a possibility. I'm going to be demonstrating some leather sewing on this machine tonight. But the way that we're going to have to set it up is going to be different than what he envisioned. What he was hoping for is to set it up as a hand crank, be able to use it as a hand crank and crank off a variety of different stitching leather projects with it. But unfortunately, the way this rotary is set up, no way to set it up with a hand crank without making majors to the normal setup of the machine. I'll show you what I mean. When we look on the side, normally we're going to have some mounting point on the side of the pillar where we can mount a hand crank and then we can put that in between the spoked wheels and give it locomotion that way. Unfortunately, with this machine, the bobbin winding assembly is attached to that same place where you would normally try to attach a hand crank. And even if you took it off, it doesn't align properly with the spokes. So that's kind of a possibility that would make you'd have to basically re-drill the side of the machine and move the position of the bobbin winding assembly and everything. The second thought he had was maybe attaching it to the end of the main shaft adjacent to the balance wheel. But unfortunately, with this rotary, see if I can go over there and show you. It has a clutch release right here that's built into the assembly. It's basically a little tab that you can flip down. You can see me doing this, a little tab you can flip down, and that's how you disengage the clutch so you can wind bobbins with the machine. There's no place on the end where, like on some of the featherweights, you could attach a hand crank directly to the main shaft and turn it that way. The setup and the assembly of the rotary just doesn't allow it. So I've done this before on light industrial machines. I told them I think what we can do is we can basically mount a base with a long a lead off of the back and then run it over the balance wheel, almost like you would if you were going to run it as a treadle in a different base that would have holes. You may have seen it before. They'll make these bases and they have actually holes drilled through them already, so you can run the leather lead down through the bottom of the case and then attach it to a servo motor or whatever you're going to do, or run it in a traditional type treadle table. But the easiest method that I explained to him that we can get locomotion to the machine, and even with his limited mobility in his hands and his feet, that he'll still be able to do it, is to set it up like you see it right now. We've got a weighted base in the back. We've got a lead coming over the back. This actually happens to be air hose from an automotive center. And then I've got a plastic graph in between. And then I fitted the length of it so it's got the right tension on this Swedish motor, a 1.5 amp. So we're going to be driving this rotary with a 1.5 amp Swedish motor like you've seen me do in other live streams. And this will be something that Richard can set up in his space back home. And then he can elect, if he's able, he can elect either to operate the foot controller with his good foot, or if he wants, I explained to him, you could also attach it in some way to a table, sort of like this, and then he can push against it with his tummy to give locomotion to the machine. He also talked about another interesting idea I hadn't thought of. He said, depending on, the weight of it and stuff, he said I could also attach some sort of a chain to it and wear it around my neck so it just dangles like this, and then I would be able to just lean over a little bit and either press it with my tummy or push it with my chin even. So, a sewist is one that is very determined to find a solution, right? And when I started talking with Richard, it was apparent that he really, really had a dream, and really had a desire uh, to uh, to try to how to make this machine into a leather sewing machine. And so I'm just going to demonstrate a little bit of leather sewing with it tonight, kind of give you an idea what what it's capable of doing. Unfortunately, when I was explaining to him household versus light industrial versus commercial, some of his original visions were sewing leather like this 11-ounce hardened leather. And I said, there's no way this white rotary, regardless of what kind of motor you set it up with, the mechanics of this machine are not going to be able to handle this hardened 11-ounce leather. It's going to be too much. There are some consos and even some sailrite machines that would struggle with a hardened 11-ounce leather like this. And then he had some other options, this 9-ounce, which is still a little bit out of the reach of this white rotary. And so I had to readjust his expectations of what this type of machine can handle, and then get him thinking along the lines of other products that he could make that would still allow him to work with leather type sewing, but within the parameters of what this machine can handle. And that's part of the re-education. As you're working with a customer, you've got to find out what are their dreams, what are their goals, and then you have to look at the machines that they're considering and let them know whether or not those machines are going to meet those goals and those dreams. Every single machine, even machines that have workshop magic, they're gonna have a certain ceiling, even if you have the best possible setup, they're gonna have a certain ceiling as to what they can attain. So as you step out into your circles and you're talking to people about your sewing, your machines in that, listen to what they're saying, as well as they're looking at maybe stepping into the vintage space. They might come with some pie in the sky type ideas of what an all metal vintage sewing machine is capable of doing. And you might have to adjust their expectations a little bit. And there's nothing wrong with that. You'd rather have them start out with a clear understanding of what a white rotary machine like this can do, and do successfully, rather than, give them false hopes and then have them be sorely disappointed with the machine and abandon vintage sewing machines altogether because it's not meeting their pie in the sky expectations. So keep that in mind. But even within the parameters of what Richard's now looking to do, I think this machine will really, really delight him as he begins to master his leather sewing and pick up new skills and new tricks of the trade in creating different projects with this rotary machine. Now, a little bit about the setup today. The setup, again, you already know the motor. The motor is going to be a Swedish motor, 1.5 amps, driven by this air hose that I got from O'Reilly's, I believe it was. I bought a long piece of air hose, and then I went to the local hardware store. They've got these little plastic pieces. They call them grafts, and they've got each end is flared out a little bit, so you can push it into the hose. And what I do is I don't just count on the graft to hold this hose together under the strain of turning a machine. I slide the graft in with a little bit of super glue on it, and then I super glue one end in, check the measurements, make sure that the tension is proper on the machine. It's not going to overload, but it's also not going to be slipping. And then I'll glue the other end, and then I'll fit it to that balance wheel and also the output pulley on the motor. And you could do the same thing. There's a lot of solutions as far as a motor being mounted to a board in the back that's weighted. The easiest method I explained to him would be for me just to take the base of a Swedish Beauty without the machine head on top, and then put some weights on top of it with this lead, and it would be a real quick, easy setup for him. He could even move it around a little bit if he wanted to do a little bit of traveling. Let's say with his partner, he's able to go to some sewing expos or something like that, and set up a booth This setup is fairly easy. Like I said, it's got a dome cover. His friend could carry the dome cover with the machine, and then on a some sort of a wheel rolling type apparatus, they could easily tuck this base in there with the motor and the foot controller and the lead, and they're all set up pretty much. It's just a matter of then distancing and getting the right tension on the machine so that it's not going to slip, but it's not going to make the motor so difficult to turn over that it won't be able to move it either. So I think right now we've got a workable solution. It's a lovely machine. You can kind of look at the decal pattern. It's almost reflective of the Singer a gingerbread or Tiffany pattern. It has some of that feel to it, almost like a Celtic type feeling as well, with a little bit of the greens and the golds built into the filigree as well. So really quite a lovely decal pattern. It's just a pretty machine to look at. I can show you the front as well. I think I showed it to you a little bit. And I didn't do a ton of cleanup on this right now. As most of you know, this coming week, I'm transitioning the entire workshop. So I did do some polishing on the plate over here and the feed dog plate a little bit, cleaned up around the stitch length controller, but some of this is all the way down to base metal. So without replating this, without replating that, there's not a lot you can do. But this again is this is going to be, did I say stitch length? You can tell I'm scattered. This is upper tension. If I said stitch length, disregard that. This is upper tension control right here to maintain that lock stitch. And then over here, we've got stitch length, pretty much all the way from 1 up to 7. And we'll be changing this a little bit going through the sewing process today on different leathers that we're going to try to do. And then up here, we've got our presser foot pressure, just like on most machines. And the threading's not too bad on this. It's a little tricky. You come off the top, you go through this first tensioner right here, and then you kind of go right to left through this center faceplate tensioner. You have to draw it underneath the edge right there, and then come through that take-up spring, and then you cross back over to the take-up arm right there, and then from there you drop down. There's a thread guide right here, and then you're going to thread the needle from left to right. You thread the needle from left to right. And this has a unique bobbin case system in it. If I open this little plate real quick, you'll be able to look at it. I'm not going to remove it right now, but it's a long beak shuttle type design. If you can see that in the shot, you can see that extension on the top of the bobbin case. That's a long beak shuttle. And the reason they call it that is when you thread that bobbin, there's basically a tensioner plate on top of it, and you have to draw the thread up through the top of that, and then you can pull the thread up when you go ahead and commence sewing. Maybe at the end of this, I'll show you. I'll take it out and I'll kind of demonstrate how to thread that up in that. It's not too bad at all. Yeah. So I don't know, any of you have ever sewn on a rotary machine before? One of the things you have to learn straight away. I talk about it in live streams all the time, and I'll harp on it like all of you probably do, and I'll say, always remember to rotate the balance wheel towards you when you're finishing off a stitch line, or if you're hand turning the machine or anything like that. We all talk about the fact that you're going to be rotating that balance wheel toward you. You don't want to do that on this rotary machine. On this rotary machine, part of the reason it's a rotary is the way the hook system is set up, and it requires that you give it locomotion by turning the balance wheel to the rear. So as I'm operating the machine, you'll see that this balance wheel is not turning forward, it's turning to the rear like this. And it's really important to understand that. I know over the years I've had people trying to use rotary style machines, and some of them, oddly enough, they do turn forward because the hook system is set up differently, but many of them turn to the rear, and someone is trying to pull the thread up, and they try. They've changed out the needle, they've done everything right, but they can't get the thread to pop up, and it's because they're trying to turn the balance wheel towards themselves like most of us have been conditioned to do. So whenever you sit down to a machine, if you don't have the owner's manual, which I don't on this machine, like a lot of machines that come through the workshop, you might have to do a little bit of trial and error and just hand turn it slowly to the front. If you see that the hook is not moving in a way that it's going to pass the scarf and grab that thread so that you can actually sew with it. And you could tell that by not putting the bobbin case in. You leave the bobbin case out, you would take this plate off, and as you turn the balance wheel slowly with the machine threaded, you'll be able to see which way that hook is going and whether or not it's catching that thread on the way around and it's starting to create that loop in the sewing process. If it's missing it entirely, or it's not creating that natural loop of that hook grabbing that upper thread and trying to bring it around for the stitching process, then try slowly rotating the balance wheel to the rear. And you may get a pleasant surprise that all of a sudden that hook, without any timing adjustments, straight away grabs that thread. And all of a sudden you've discovered that the mechanics of that machine require a reverse locomotion to execute the sewing process. So never start with too many assumptions, because sometimes machines will surprise you just a little bit. I know they have surprised me over the years. Well, I'm just going to say some quick hellos. And again, this was unannounced. I just decided that I wanted to document some of this for Richard and to, just to celebrate this great machine that he brought to me and show the solution that I put together to make it a viable tool for him to be able to do some leather sewing because and in spite of any physical limitations that he might have. In fact, tomorrow when he comes around 11 o'clock Central Time, I'm going to grab two of my sewing tables that are out in the overflow area, and I'm going to have them set up just forward of the garage door opening that brings you into the initial entrance into the workshop, so that he can come up in his wheelchair and he can see the way I've got it set up, and maybe even attempt a little bit to operate the machine and at least begin to build that base of confidence and that base of vision and how he might be able to use this as a tool in doing some of the leather sewing. I want him really to feel confident when he drives away tomorrow that this is something that he can do and he can have success with it, and he can celebrate this great white rotary machine. Okay? Yeah. See that? Even in a transition with my mind in so many directions, I can still blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I can. All right. Let's see. Oh, hello to Joelle out in California. And Joelle and I finally connected today. I let her know that the 1222E that we recently live streamed that belongs to her mother, Sandy, and herself, that machine that would have been saved from a sewing vac back in 1981, is on its way back to California right now. And I gave Joelle all the tracking information. And apparently Sandy, her mom, was literally on the brink of doing cartwheels on the grass in front of her house. And because Sandy lives in a kind of a prominent gated community, her neighbors, if she actually did that, would probably go to the homeowners association and try to boot her out. Say, you can't be doing cartwheels in our gated community. What are you thinking? I'll tell you one thing. If they do that, I'll be out there doing cartwheels with her. Yeah, just to support her. Hello also to Emma as well. And I know Emma is busy doing all kinds of things down in Florida. And it's great to have her here. I did get a text message from Susie, who normally is the first in the classroom, that she's in a Zoom meeting right now for Master Gardeners. So she's not going to be able to join us. And I told Susie, because she's so dedicated, I said, if there's a time where you just can't make it, we're going to survive without you. We've got a lot of other leaders. We've got other family members that will bridge the gap in your absence. So feel free that you can miss occasionally. It's okay. So tonight she's going to be missing unless her meeting gets done sooner than expected, and that she might join us near the end of this live stream. But I won't be going extremely long on this live stream because I'm really getting down to the nitty gritty as far as time. And I've got to finish a machine that's on the other workbench. I've got to do a bunch of packing of machines as well. I've got more machines waiting to head home. And then I also have to start the packing process before the movers get here on Monday. So I'm not going to be probably as long in this live stream as I normally am. But we'll cover all the bases so that it's a teaching tool for others and also for Richard, the owner of this great white rotary machine as well. I'll raise it up a little bit. Look at even the decal on the faceplate of this great machine. And the other thing I should point out, and otherwise I'm going to totally forget to do it. The cool thing about these rotary machines, most of them, is that this entire block, I'll show you from the side as well, this entire block here, from here to here, this entire block comes off of the machine so that you can do servicing, you can do adjustments as far as the height of the needle bar. And there's basically a bolt right there, and there's a bolt right there. And once you release those two bolts, this entire assembly on the front of here that contains the presser foot bar and everything, almost like a Singer 12K hand crank, this entire assembly comes completely off of the machine. And then you're looking at its nakedness. It's kind of the first time I did one of these, it was almost freaky. I felt like I was hurting the machine, but it's designed to do that. The only thing you have to be real careful of when you put this back on, you have to fit it back on properly. And then when you're adjusting these screws back in, you have to be really careful about the alignment of that needle bar and constantly be rotating that balance wheel to check clearance. Because if you tighten one of these down too quick, it's almost like the alignment on a car. It's going to push that needle bar out of alignment and you're going to be hitting the throat plate. So if you decide to take one of these on and remove it, just be really cautious and really, really slow in putting it back together, and then just slowly adjust these screws a little bit at a time and keep checking that needle bar alignment in relation to the throat plate. Otherwise, you'll go to sew and you'll break a needle straight away. And I'll also tell you that our setup today is because I wanted to push a little bit, see as far as I can, without breaking this air hose back here that I'm using to drive this machine. I do have a size 110 leather needle in the machine by Schmetz. It's going to be one of those harpoon needles like Sonny would call it. So it's a size 18, which is going to be about the biggest needle that you'll want to use on a white rotary machine. Well, you can see it in the shot right there. And you can buy these in packs of 5. You can even buy them in lots of 100. You can buy leather needles in bulk as well online through probably even Amazon. I don't shop on Amazon, but I'm told anything you need or want, you can get on Amazon. So I have no doubt they probably sell some really good Schmetz leather needles in bigger bulk sizes on Amazon also. Yeah. All right. Let me say some more hellos. Hello also to Mark Anderson is here. And let's see. Yeah, I think that's about it. We've got a real small, we've got a very small, intimate gathering tonight, and that's okay. As I had told most of you, I didn't anticipate doing any more live streams, but for some customers, it's kind of a big deal. They make a big investment to bring the machine to the workshop like Richard did, and having a permanent documentation reminding them about the features and the functions of the machine, and also being able to show it to their friends and say, yeah, I had my machine at Scott's workshop. It's kind of and don't take this in the wrong way, but it's kind of bragging rights when you get a machine in the workshop because I do have a prominence in the sewing space around the world, and get machines from around the world, and so people feel really they puff up a little bit. They feel good when they've had their machine with me in the workshop with Workshop Magic and just taking through that unique process. All right, that's enough blah blah blah. Let me actually do a little bit of sewing on this, but again, as I have the shot kind of across the machine like this, so you can see the needle, you can see the balance wheel. Notice which way that machine balance wheel is rotating in the sewing process. And we'll start on kind of the light end a little bit. Well, light as far as leather sewing. We'll do a little bit of saddle grade. We'll do a little bit of genuine alkyd. I did not try this hardened 6 ounce leather on Richard's machine, but I'll give it a go. I'll see if number one, I'll see if this air hose that I have with this little graph in there will power the machine without breaking. I've had a couple, as you might remember, couple of light industrial machines I was trying to power in a similar way, and I just kept destroying the belts because there's so much pressure on them. But I think some of those were a little bit dry rotted. So let's give it a go. Listen to the machine operate. Rotaries are notoriously quiet when they're running well. So I think you'll be surprised at how quiet this machine is. Um, I can even bring the microphone a little bit closer to the machine right here, maybe. You can see the microphone is right there, and just listen to how quiet this machine is. I'll do this on the first sew off, and then I'll probably move the microphone back. Matter of fact, I'll move it right there so I don't knock it over. So let's see. Let me grab a little bit of saddle grade. We'll just stitch around a little bit with this. And even saddle grade, as you can see from the side, it's not a lightweight leather. It's probably about 3 ounces of leather. Not quite the thickness of a belt, but it's pretty thick stuff. And depending on where it comes off the hide, it feels almost like hardened leather a little bit. So it definitely, it'll give this rotary a little bit of a run for its money. So I'm going to lower that presser foot down. We'll get our take-up arm to a higher position here. And see, I'm so much in the habit of rotating the balance wheel towards me. I just started to do that by, what do they call it? It's motor, what do they call it? Mental motor something or other, where you do things in a certain way so many times your motor faculties just automatically move into that mode. So I got to remember to turn this to the rear, get our take-up arm all the way up. I'm going to get a quick little drink of soda, and then we'll give this a go, and you can watch this machine do its dance. So again, we've got saddle grade, about 3 ounces. And we're powering this again with a 1.5 amp Swedish motor off of this rubber lead. You can kind of see it around the back there. There we go. I think that's a pretty good shot. I'll just lower this down just a little bit. There we go. All right, let's give this a go. Just going to clip those threads real quick so I don't sew over them. It really is. I hope you can pick that up on the microphone with it being so close. After going through this machine and getting a lot of varnish buildup off of it and making the adjustments, servicing it and everything, it is surprisingly quiet. Really, really is a pleasure to operate. All right, I think I went around in circles enough there. We're just going to take a peek at some of this stitching that we just did. And I think we've got a really nice balance right now. So this again, saddle grade, probably about 3 ounces. Nothing like the leather that Richard wanted to sew. This is going to have a little bit more suppleness to it, but some really, really pretty stitching on this. I'll show you on the top first of all. And also you'll notice right away, I've got it on the longest stitch setting. And these are huge stitches on this rotary compared to some of the other vintage machines that I've shown you. I'll do a little measurement. We'll see how big they are, but they're quite large. Some really, really lovely stitching though. On this end of the leather, we're probably closer to 4 ounces. You can see that right there. Then our lock stitching on the back. So this is not the maximum of what this machine can do. We're probably going to push it a little bit harder than this, but I really needed to work with Richard to adjust his expectations just a wee bit. So let me throw that to the back. And again, this isn't going to be an incredibly long live stream because I have so many other things I need to jump into. Now we'll try stitching down just a straight line of this genuine alkyd. So show it to you like this. This is the equivalent of a belt thickness, a heavy belt that you might wear, in, whether you're farming or ranching or whatever. This is the equivalent thickness of about a belt, which I think it'll give Richard a sense of excitement in knowing that his machine can handle this. So try buzzing down this and see how we do with this. And I am going to, just so I don't end up breaking this belt, because this is the only one I have right now. I will give it just a little bit of a hand start on this alkyd. This alkyd is thick enough. I think it'll, there we go. That's a little bit better. I'll give it just a little bit of a hand start and then let that Swedish motor take over. All right. I think I almost got it. Here we go. And actually, I think I'll adjust, well, I think I'll adjust my length down just a little bit. I'll go from 7 down to 6. Make it a little bit easier to get through this leather, hopefully. All right, here we go. Oh, very nice. Very, very nice. And again, when you're drawing the thread on a rotary, again, we're threading this from left to right. Just draw that material to the right so that you're not putting too much pressure on that needle, flexing it, over flexing it, and maybe bend it. So this again is genuine alkyd. Let's take a look at the alkyd. Probably about 4 in certain parts of it on this end over here, almost 5 ounces of leather. Those are page 34 stitches, folks. They really are. Really, really lovely. You can imagine if Richard is doing a product using alkyd of this thickness, he's going to be able to have a really gorgeous product to show his customers. Beautiful stitching. Really, really lovely. Lock stitching. Also beautiful lock stitching as well. So that upper tension is doing its job very nicely right now, along with working with that long beak shuttle bobbin as well. Camera's having a little trouble focusing on that. Let me try it like this now. There we go. And you can see that a size 18 needle, really almost like a bullet hole, when that size 18 needle is going through this alkyd, you can see it flaring that leather out because it's got such a girth. It's got such a girth as it's passing through that leather. It just slices through with that leather needle, and it pushes that leather out of the way. You can see the thickness again there. Anyone that thinks that that's a light sew off, y- y- you got to get new glasses. You got to get new glasses because that is some thick stuff right there. You can see it in the shot. And we just did that with this white rotary powered by the Swedish motor and with a automotive air hose as the belt. It's kind of hilarious, isn't it? So beautiful, beautiful stitching on the alkyd. Really, really pleased with that. And again, I'll show you the setup we have if you missed it somehow. We've got the Swedish motor. We've got weights on it right over here. Just because these are metal, I don't want them getting too close to this electrical contact area. So I've got this here as a little buffer, just to make sure that we don't ground anything out. And then we've got our motor here with the lead coming over the balance wheel. It's really quite simple. And then again, on these rotaries, if you're winding a bobbin with them, there's a uh, little tab right here that you can flip down like that. And then what it does is it takes out the locomotion of the main shaft. So if I power it right now, we should just get balance wheel movement. And you just flip this back. And now the clutch is re-engaged so that when we engage the motor again, the whole balance wheel and the main shaft will go. All right. Yeah, I love this. I didn't know if you find it attractive or not, but I love the look of this decal pattern on here. It's really quite spectacular. Really quite spectacular. There we go. All right, what can we sew next? I want to concentrate just on leather because I know that that's what Richard is looking for. So we've already done alkyd. Um, I didn't test this already, but I'll give it a go. I'll give it a try. I've got 2 layers of saddle grade here. Probably going to be about 5 to 6 ounces of leather when I put them together. About the same thickness as the alkyd. So we'll try going through 2 layers of this saddle grade leather and see how this rotary handles that. And again, I'll give it just a little bit of a hand start so that I don't break this belt. Otherwise, I'll be rushing to the automotive store tomorrow and then to the hardware store to make another belt, for Richard before he arrives around 11 o'clock. And you can do the same thing if you ever get a machine where that belt that it needs is a real weird length. Um, you can easily use air hose in lieu of a V-style belt, or instead of one of those cog belts. Just make your own belt. Go to your automotive store, tell them about the thickness of the air hose that you're looking for. The one that I'm using is just about 5 millimeters across. As I'm measuring it with a mechanical caliper, it's about 5 millimeters. So you can just tell them you're looking for air hose that's around 5 millimeters in circumference, and then go to your hardware store. Tell them you need a a couple of graphs. I can show, you know what, I should grab them and show them to you, show you what they look like, so that you have a visual of what they look like. And as you go to your hardware store, you can tell them you're looking to basically put two rubber hoses together, is what they're designed to do. They're flared on the end so that they create that resistance and grip. And then a lot of them have little ribs on them, so that they then kind of bite into that leather so that the hoses are less likely to come apart. See if I can find them. All right, I'm not getting my eye on them right now. Excuse me, I'm not getting my eye on them right now. And I doubt that I'll be able to. Yeah, here's one that I was using. I'll just show you real quick. Again, when you go to your automotive store, you can get different types of hoses. You can get hoses that are designed for fuel, air, or fluids, within your motor. This one is quite a bit larger. And so when I went to my hardware store and I told them I wanted to get some of the plastic graphs that are ribbed so I could push these two together. And then again, what I do is when I push them together, I super glue one side, make sure that it's nice and well anchored. And then I put super glue on the other one and I push them together, let them dry. You can see the residue of super glue on there right there. But this one I had done for a larger light industrial machine that was in the workshop. And I wanted to be able to test it before the customer picked it up. So, you can get practically any width that you want at your local automotive store. But again, the one I'm using is right around 5 millimeters. This one's going to be significantly larger. So I can't find those graphs, but I think I've done a decent job of explaining to you what they are. And if you go to your local hardware store and you tell them you're just looking to put two pieces of rubber hose together, they'll know right away what you need. And they're so darn cheap. But I would take the hose that you're looking to use with them, take the hose into the hardware store with you, because sometimes I measured the outer diameter of this hose that I'm using to power this white rotary, but the inside circumference where that graph is sliding in, you got to get the right size graph, the plastic graph with the ribs on them. Some of them will be too big and you'll bend them trying to get them to slide into the hose. The other ones will be too small and it's not going to hold those hoses together as well. So just take your hose in with you and then fit those plastic graphs in your hardware store to the hose so that you've got a working solution. And then kind of the carpenter's rule, measure twice, check it over the assembly as you're looking to use it, whether it's going to be a vertical one like on a treadle style design or whether it's a rear mounted one like we're using today. And then once you get the right measurement, it's got the right resistance, it's not going to be slipping, then you can go ahead and glue those in place and then you'll have a permanent belt. And they're so much cheaper than having to try to find a belt out there where you're going to be paying 15 to 20 bucks. You buy a piece of air hose and you buy a couple of graphs, you probably spend about $3 to $4, depending on the price points of your hardware store, etc. So, all right, let's do 2 layers of this saddle grade and see what we think of this. All right. Look at that saddle grade. Isn't that interesting? You see it curling up there as we're stitching through it. I can tell you it doesn't have any vinyl in it, so it's not like the some of the stuff we've sewn where it just goes curly crazy. Yeah, lovely stitching. Really quite nice. I'm looking at the tension balance right now. I'll show it to you as well. It's looking almost like maybe as we're doing these 2 layers, almost as if we might want to consider backing off this upper tension just a little bit. On these rotaries again, this is going to be, it looks almost like a clock, doesn't it? Looks almost like a clock. You turn it up or down to adjust your tension. Closer to the 12 o'clock position right here is going to be, it's labeled loose. It's labeled loose. So you're going to be decreasing the upper tension as you rotate it closer to the 12 o'clock position. And then as you rotate it closer to the 12 o'clock position, it gets looser. So you're going to have less of a defined lock stitch. As you rotate it down to the 3 o'clock position, and then all the way down to the 6 o'clock, you're going to be creating a lot of upper tension pull to define that lock stitch more. So just think of it like a clock, loose at 12 o'clock, tight as you move closer to the 6 o'clock position on here. All right, let's take a look at these and see what we think. But the reason I went into that little explanation is as I'm looking at the top stitching, it looks like the balance is off just a touch. They're really nice looking stitches, but the balance might be off just a little bit as far as the tension. So let's look at the top stitching first. And again, I don't have this at the maximum stitch length right now. I've got it set on 3. Oh, excuse me, I've got it set on 6, and 7 would be our max as the longest stitch. But some lovely, lovely stitching, I think, by this white Rotary. Lovely, lovely stitching. I think Richard will be real pleased with the possibilities. And you can see here we've gone through 2 layers of the saddle grade. I'll keep rotating it. Now we're going to look at that lock stitch. And the lock stitch, it's a lovely lock stitch, but I think we would have to, if we're going to be sewing 2 layers of saddle grade, we would just have to work on adjusting the tension a little bit to get a balance on both sides nicely. Let me turn it around like this. Again, is our lock stitch. And again, you can see as that needle punches through there, look at that size 18 needle doing its work to displace that leather with its cutting edge. It just razor blades itself through that leather, like, get out of the way, get out of the way. Really lovely. And again, a white Rotary is a household sewing machine. The ladies and men of the day that would have sewn on this machine would have been using it for, doing lighter type sewing projects, household projects, drapery, maybe some hemming, etc. They wouldn't have been using it for saddle grade leather. That would not have been, in most cases, that would not have been their focus as far as projects. But that's our focus because that's what Richard wants to do. So some beautiful stitching, top stitching, lock stitching through 2 layers of saddle grade leather. All right. Let's see what else we can experiment with here. I've got some of this protected full grain leather as well. I can see if I can cut this a little bit, and we'll see if we can get away with doing 2 layers of this. This tends to be a little trickier because the protected full grain leather has a chemical coating on it, and so it makes that piercing threshold just a wee bit higher. But we'll give it a go and see how we do with that. First of all, I think what we'll do is we'll go down a single layer of it, and then we'll add this second layer to it and kind of stitch around this a little bit. Okay, so a single layer of protected full grain. Single layer of protected full grain, and then we'll add a second layer and see if we can get through that with that size 18 needle as well. All right, here we go. And I'm really holding that motor back. That Swedish motor has 1.5 amps with our current setup. So it's got more than enough power to really speed through this. But I know that Richard, especially with some of his physical limitations, having some degree of disability, control is going to be an important thing to him. So as he watches this video, I want him to be able to see that with this setup, you don't have to race and try to manage that sewing direction and speed, which might be, it would be overwhelming to any one of us. You can really meter that speed down using this Swedish foot controller, and you can have a lot of control. Obviously, this white rotary does not have a slow gear, which might be really beneficial to Richard. So he's got to have the confidence that he can manage that speed very nicely uh, by metering it out himself, if that makes sense. All right, so we'll look at the single layer first, and then we'll try to add this second layer to it. And again, protected full grain leather is going to be used in settings where this stuff that I buy as scraps is from a company that does reupholstering and does seats for the fancy private jet airplanes like the Lear jets and all that. So the real rich people that are drinking their wine or other beverages that could easily stain leather, protected full grain leather has a special coating on it, a chemical coating that makes it resistant to staining. So if one of those wealthier people spill their wine on this, those attendants can wipe it off, and it's not going to permeate this leather because of that coating on it. But that coating also makes the piercing threshold higher. It kind of galvanizes that surface. So it's a good thing we have that size 18 needle with that leather cutting edge on it to get through this stuff very, very nicely. It's really a lovely stitch, isn't it? Really quite lovely. Really a lovely stitch. And again, with Richard having the idea that he wants to do some projects and maybe offer them for sale, stitch quality is really important. And this rotary machine by White is really, I think, demonstrating what a lovely stitch he would be able to do on his products to impress people and to make them want to desire that product. If we turn it over, actually, I'll turn it like this. You can see from the side, it's probably about 3 ounces, almost 4 ounces of leather. You sort of can see that. At any rate, we'll go to the lock stitch now. And this has more of a dense snap, so it'll conceal that stitching just a little bit, but I can try to pull it back as well. Beautiful lock stitching as well through this protected full grain leather. So, the Sailrights, the Consos, other machines like that, they have their purpose. They have their purpose as far as certain types of stitching that you're wanting to do at that level. But a rotary machine can handle much more than most people realize and lay down gorgeous stitching like this. If you're wanting to have a small business of doing leather goods, you're able to pull it off and create some masterful pieces that people will really be impressed by. They'll be even more impressed when they see you at that sewing expo doing some of this stitching right there in front of the crowd, and they see the power that one of our vintage sewing machines set up with this adaptation can deliver down at the needle. So now we're going to try to double it. We're going to try to double this and go through 2 layers of this protected full grain leather, and we'll see if it's too much for this machine. Again, this is going to be galvanized with that chemical process, and it might create a little bit of an issue for us, but we'll see how we do. So with this sew attempt, we're going to be going through this much leather. That's probably a little bit thicker than a heavy belt, or close to the thickness of a heavy belt. So we'll give this a go now. The other thing I was really impressed with as I got reacquainted with this rotary machine is the clearance underneath the presser foot. I'm going to be sliding 2 layers of this protected full grain leather underneath there, and there's so much available clearance. It doesn't even in any way pressure this machine into feeling like we're reaching the maximum. I'll just show you right now by bringing the camera over there. See that? We're not even close to maxing this out. Not even close. We could, if the machine was able to do it without me breaking the belt, the air hose I'm using, we could fit, from a clearance standpoint, we could fit easily another layer of protected full grain leather, maybe 2 more. So we could have a total of 4 layers of protected full grain leather potentially underneath the presser foot. But again, with our current setup using an automotive air hose, I think it might be a little bit overdoing it as far as pushing the machine to that level. I think 2 layers is a good range for this machine. So we're gonna try to operate within the the range of what the machine is comfortably able to accomplish, relatively comfortably. So, all right, let's give this a go again. And I didn't show you, you folks that joined us a little bit late. We're using a traditional Swedish foot controller, a traditional Swedish foot controller. It'll be, I think, a very, very easy controller for Richard to use with some of his limitations, some of his disabilities, or some of his. I hate the word disability. If you want to type an alternative word in the live chat, but Richard does have he readily speaks about it with no apology. He has some physical limitations. Maybe that's a better way to say it. Some physical limitations, and this will be a real nice controller. Whether he sets it up like he talked with me about, basically attaching a chain to this somehow and wearing it around his neck, and then using his chin or using his chest or his tummy to push against this, or if he's able to use his foot to push down on this. It's a nice broad foot controller where he'll be able to choose the best option for him to operate the machine using this foot controller and this setup that we have right now. So I think he'll have more than one option. More than one option. I also didn't show you um, the little cubby over here. Really kind of cool too. It's got this little sliding cubby here, and you can have extra needles in there. Or I would put bubble gum and candy in there probably. You know me. But it's got a nice little storage space in there. And I can see I didn't do a good job of cleaning this out yet. Kind of grab this. Some of these old, there's an old nail in there, an old nail and an old needle that I'm going to throw away because these have definitely reached their expiration. But I love the thoughtful design into these cases. Really, really master craftsmanship. Gives you more options in carrying extra goodies with the machine while you're traveling. Well, I'm so distracted by the detail on that faceplate. It's just spectacular, isn't it? Such a gorgeous, sexy looking machine. Such a gorgeous, sexy looking machine. Okay, so let's see how we do with these 2 layers of protected full grain leather. I did not test this off camera. And again, our setup is a size 18 leather needle, which equates to a size 110. So I'm not concerned about breaking the needle, but we'll see how the machine handles this level of sewing. And you know what I should have done if I was thinking is I should have done these back to back so that we're able to get stitching on the back more readily. You know what I mean? Let's do it like that. Then we'll have a lot better visibility of that stitching on the back. Get that into place. Press your foot down. And keep your fingers crossed. Again, I haven't tried this yet. I'm hoping that we can get through this without skipping any stitches and lay down some beautiful stitching. And that'll give even more confidence to Richard as far as the possibilities of this white rotary for his leather sewing projects as he starts to explore this space with this vintage machine. All right. So again, this machine rotates to the back. I'm going to change the camera angle a little bit so you can kind of see the direction of the wheel as it's turning to the rear. It's the opposite of what we normally expect to see. All right, so let me give this a go. I'm going to give it a little bit of a hand start so that I don't break our belt, and hopefully we're successful. We're going to hit some point where we're not successful, and then we'll know what the limitations with our current setup are. Right? We'll know our limitations. All right, here we go. Well, we haven't reached our limitations yet. Really, I think you'll be impressed. I think you'll be impressed with what we're doing, especially with our rather odd setup using an air hose from the automotive store as the drive belt for this setup. But it's working nicely, and I'll leave these tails on so we can readily distinguish which is our second stitch row. So this is what we went through again. I'll just kind of show you from the side. We went through 2 layers of this protected full grain leather, probably about 6 ounces of leather. And we'll look at the top stitching first. Trying to remember which way we had this facing. I wish I could do like a rewind, huh? Well, we'll be able to tell that easily enough. You can tell I'm lacking for sleep because we only have 1 stitch line when we did our second stitch line. So the bottom row here is our second stitch line. I'm getting kind of goofy. You know, when you don't get enough sleep, you get a little slappy, don't you? All right, so that top this bottom row, this bottom row is the second one we just did through 2 layers of protected full grain leather. Both of those are beautiful stitch lines. I'll just kind of go across so you can see them. Really, really lovely. Look at them like this as well. Really quite spectacular. And you'll notice as you go through greater thicknesses of leather, the stitches will react with the current tension balance you have set up on the machine. They'll react a little bit as they have more space to center that knot in between these 2 thick layers of protected full grain leather. And to me, it almost accentuates the stitch even more. The thicker you go, within reason, you get almost even a more accentuated, more beautiful stitch as you look at the 2 comparatively. This was our single layer up here on top, and that's our stitching going through 2 layers of this protected full grain. Look at it from the edge as well. Not a light sew off at all. And then finally, we'll look at that lock stitching on the bottom. Look at that lock stitching through the bottom. They turn around like this. And that's equally gorgeous on this rotary. Really, really lovely. It almost, to me, it looks almost like we might have a little bit too much upper tension, just a slight bit too much upper tension. Because what it does is it then compresses that stitch a little bit because that thread is pulling a little bit too hard. It actually shortens that stitch because it's pulling up too hard. But all in all, really a lovely, lovely lock stitch. Yeah, really impressed. I hope you are as well. It really opens you up to kind of rethinking the capabilities of some of these older rotary machines. These older rotary machines that oftentimes in the household back in the day would have been used for much lighter sewing. But Richard's going to be pushing this machine, and it'll definitely, as long as he does basic maintenance on it, it'll stand up to some serious regular leather sewing with basic maintenance on the machine. Already, we've gone through quite a few different sew offs. As you can see, we've just got done doing a single layer and then 2 layers of protected full grain leather. There it is. And then we launched initially into me trying to sew around in a circle, which was a little bit kind of funny with this saddle gray leather. It's more of a hardened type leather. And we were able to lay down some beautiful stitching on this as well. And then finally, we went into some alkyd as well. Some of this super thick alkyd and laid down some gorgeous stitching on that also. Really quite lovely, I think. Really, really lovely stitching. And then we went with 2 layers of this saddle grade. I wasn't sure what the outcome would be, but the machine and this Schmetz size 18 needle just really made it look quite easy, didn't it? Made it look quite easy. This is our lock stitch. You can tell because you can see the displacement as that sharp leather needle is cutting through, slicing through that leather and creating a little, almost a little poof on the bottom. A little poof, almost like a gunshot going through there. And there's our top stitch, quite lovely as well. So rotaries can be a surprisingly strong machine when they're set up properly. And I think Richard will have a lot of fun with this machine. The last thing I was going to attempt to do is some leather that Richard actually brought. This is what he's calling a 6 ounce hardened leather. If you could feel that it's incredibly rigid, there's no pliability to it. It's a very, very hardened type leather. It's probably going to be only about 3 or 4 ounces as far as its thickness, but the density of this leather, because of how it's processed, is really, really going to test this size 18 needle and certainly test my rubber, my air hose setup on the machine as well. But I'm willing to give it a try. I didn't test it off camera. It might be a total fail, which is okay because then Richard knows that this is not a realistic type of leather to be using with this rotary machine. But I'm willing to try it. I'm willing to try it, and then I'll go ahead and put in a fresh needle for Richard before he arrives tomorrow at 11. So he, he'll be able to start out with a really, really sharp Schmetz size 18 needle. These are really excellent needles, really quite excellent needles if you've never tried them before. And most of your vintage machines will be able to handle them with very few limitations. They've got a little bit wider butt. I think it's called, yeah, I'm trying to remember needle anatomy. I believe the very top of the needle is called the shank or the butt. And sometimes, depending on the needle socket on your vintage sewing machine, this might be a little bit too wide to slide in there comfortably. But you can try it, see what happens, see whether or not you're able to get it into position. So we're going to try some of this hardened leather. We're definitely not going to try this hardened 9 ounce leather that Richard brought. This is going to be way outside the reach of this rotary machine, way outside the reach. And I told him that as soon as he showed it to me. So, but we'll give this 6 ounce a go and see what success we get. See what success we get. Oh, I didn't even see our ambassador to needles is here, Jenny. It's great to have Jenny, and I bet you there's others that have joined as well. I'll make it a point as we do this final sew off. Well, I won't say final sew off. Maybe we'll goof around a little bit more on some of this real quick. But if you have any questions about needles, bounce them off of Jenny. You'll see Jenny in the live chat right now, and she's got a lot of knowledge that she can share with all of us as she's done a lot of digging into the different needles that are available. And also, I point a lot of people to the website as well. It's called the threadexchange.com. The threadexchange.com is a wonderful, wonderful resource with a lot of smart people that can answer questions about needles, about thread, about specialty threads. They have every thread under the sun that you can imagine, to include thread that is resistant to UV. They've got Kevlar thread. Check them out. Go to thethreadexchange.com and you can reach out to them. They're willing to answer questions, but otherwise bring your questions back to our live streams once I'm live streaming again, and bounce them off of Jenny. Jenny is a wonderful resource and very, very knowledgeable on the needle side and the thread side and everything else, as is Teresa. Kind of partners with her. Teresa and Jenny, part of my leadership team, have a lot of great insights to, having good setups, compatibility between needles and threads and all of that. And they probably get a little nervous sometimes with some of my bizarre setups that I do, but somehow it works out. It somehow works out in the end. So we're going to see now how this rotary does against this very, very tough, hardened 6-ounce leather. Hopefully we can get through it. So let me get a quick drink of soda, and then we'll do this one of the final sew-offs. Can't even see what time it is. Does anyone have oh, it's going on 8 o'clock. Yeah, I need to wrap this up. I've got to get back to this machine over here. I'll just show you real quick. This customer needs SAP, and I'm still dealing with all of the rusted. Saw that little reel I put on Facebook. Saw how bad off it was. You can still see here in my hand. This is the upper tension disc, and this is actually the bobbin case right here is just a rusty mess. So I've got to do a lot of hand polishing tonight. And then I had to repair this. This was cracked. Just all kinds of challenges on this machine. This is a Singer. I'm trying to remember. A Singer Fashion Mate. This is a Singer Fashion Mate. Yeah. All right. Let's try to do this final sew off. I'm probably stalling a little bit because I'm a little bit nervous. I need my leadership team member just to tell me to go for it. It's either going to work or it's not going to work, right? We don't know yet. I didn't try this yet. So no fear, as Candido always says. And keep Candido and his wife Rachel thought and prayer. They're battling a couple of things right now, and just let's keep everybody in thought. All of us are battling things. I'm battling a major move on Monday, so keep me in thought and prayer as well. All right, let's get this done. Let's see if we can get through this stuff. This is going to be a real challenge of this machine, a real challenge. All right, I'm taking a deep breath. No fear, as Candido always says. And let's see if we can somehow work our way through this. I'm going to give it a hand start because that needle's going to hit this stuff, and it's going to be like hitting cement. It's going to be like hitting cement for this this household machine by White. I'm probably going a little bit further than I should, but I'm going to give it a try anyway. All right, here we go. I'm shocked. I'm just telling you right now, I'm shocked. I'm shocked that I gave it just a little bit of a boost. It probably didn't need it. This machine, the setup with the needle, it got through this much easier, but we haven't seen the backside yet. We haven't seen how well we were able to maintain tension going through a hardened leather like this. I'm going to take a little peek. It looks beautiful, you guys. It looks so beautiful. I'm getting a little cocky now. I almost want to stitch down this one more time and take it a little bit faster, kind of push that Swedish motor a little bit harder and see if we can just buzz down it and make it look ridiculously easy so that someone else that's considering a white rotary says, holy cow, look at how easily he did that 6 ounces of hardened leather. That's crazy. That's unbelievable. So we might just stitch down it one more time. Just to say we did it. Unbelievable. Really amazingly. But again, we're being driven by Swedish power too. So it's a little bit of a secret weapon, isn't it? It's a little bit of a secret weapon. Let me show you the stitching, and then maybe we'll buzz down it one more time. Or maybe we'll do what one of our family members suggested one time, and take some of this hardened leather and then combine it with some other leather. Maybe I'll cut a strip of this saddle grade leather and we'll do some of this 6-ounce hardened leather with some saddle grade leather. And then we can say we did 2 different types of leathers. We stitched them together and maybe it'll work. I don't know. But let me show this to you first. I'm just going to say, wow. I'm going to say, wow. Folks, that is page 34 plus stitching. Look at the thickness. And this is, again, this is like a cardboard. It's that hardened leather. It's processed incredibly stiff. It's not pliable at all. Top stitching again. That is unbelievably beautiful stitching. Richard is going to be over the moon. Richard's going to be over the moon when he sees this. Unbelievable. And here's our lock stitching. Try to get real close here. That's Susie's notification. Hold on one second. See if I can show this to you real quick. No loopiness whatsoever. And we have our upper tension adjusted down quite low right now, actually. Quite low. Look at the thickness again. And if you could feel this stuff, it's like cardboard. It's like a real heavy corrugated cardboard, very, very stiff, very hardened. And yet we lay down stitching that's absolutely brag-worthy. Absolutely brag-worthy. Unbelievable. Let me check that notification real quick. And then we're going to try combining some saddle grade with this hardened leather and see what the result is. I might bump up our upper tension just temporarily to accommodate that. We'll see. Oh, Susie is in the live stream now. Hello, Susie. How you doing, dear? Susie, most of you know this. Susie is a master gardener, and she doesn't make a big deal on it. But even when she was in the workshop and I introduced her to some people in Oconto, we popped out to the local restaurant and that. She got into an interesting discussion, actually, not about master gardener type stuff, but she got into an interesting discussion with one of the local ladies about canning, and that process and stuff. Susie is really she's one of these gals that she pretty much can do anything, and she does anything that she wants to do, from gardening, canning, and all kinds of other. She could share all kinds of cool things that she's involved with. My package might be, what is this? I didn't know I was getting a package. Is this fake? Does anyone get these things? Is this fake? It says I'm getting something by UPS. This came in as a text message. Is this fake? I should forward this to some of my leadership team and have them vet this for me, because I'm not expecting anything. It says the driver's lost. I can't imagine this being real, because UPS or FedEx are not going to admit that their drivers get lost, even if they get lost. It's kind of humiliating. These drivers can find anything. Really, I mean, literally, they can. So I don't think this is real. I currently lost en route to you. We'll see what happens. Maybe somebody sent me something by UPS, but I don't think so. I think it's fake. But yeah, at any rate, if you have any questions about canning or any of that outdoorsy, I'm trying to think, oh, what are they called? Not the I can't think of what the term is. They're not preppers. It's the people that live and they can live off the land and do all that kind of cool stuff. So, any rate, I'm just totally rambling right now. So we'll see if UPS shows up. I don't think they will. I doubt it. I doubt that they will. Okay, let me set that to the side. We'll give another sew off attempt here. This was so impressive. I wish you could feel this stuff. And just gorgeous stitching. So now we're going to make it a little bit harder for this rotary. I'm going to take probably about 3 to 4 ounces of this saddle grade leather, and I'm going to layer it onto this and see if we can stitch through this, and then we'll wrap this up. And these are my Guggenheim scissors, or my shears. I guess if you're doing it correctly, you call them shears, not scissors. Let's see here. Okay, and I'll do this back to back so we can kind of see the stitching on the other side. And I have no idea what's going to happen. This might be a total fail or it might be a total success. So we'll see shortly. But the total thickness we're going to be going through with this hardened leather and then this saddle grade. The saddle grade almost looks thin compared to this hardened leather, but we're adding more density to the sew off. That's what we're going to be attempting right here. And again, we're powering this by a Swedish 1.5 amp motor and an air hose from your local automotive store. Yeah, we're kind of MacGyvering it a little bit, aren't we? We're kind of MacGyvering it. So we'll give this a shot. I honestly don't know what's going to happen. It might be success, triumph, defeat. No idea. No idea. I'm going to switch this around so that we got a little bit more thickness on that side that we're going to be going through. All right. Well, we'll give it a try. We'll give it a try. See how we do. See how we do. And I'm not going to change presser foot pressure. That would be right up here. I'm going to leave it just the way it is. We got it cranked down pretty good right now, so I think we'll be in pretty good shape. Change that like that so you can look across the machine with me. You can watch that balance wheel turn the rear, and then you can see when this size 18 Schmetz needle hits this leather. Is it going to break? Is it going to bend? Is it going to shriek and call out and say, "What are you doing to me?" Is it going to shout out to the Schmetz people that follow me on Facebook and on YouTube? They follow us on Facebook and on YouTube and say needle abuse, needle abuse, needle abuse? Hopefully not. Come on, you can be a tough needle, for goodness sakes. You're size 18. And when it comes to needles, size matters. Yeah, it does. So, and look at my face. I'm not afraid. Maybe a little afraid. Yeah. Oh, man. Oh, this is terrifying. All right, let's give it a try here. Let me get my take-up arm all the way up. All right, here we go. We're sewing hardened leather, 6 ounces, as Richard has it marked. This is the 6 ounce. He marked it right here with a permanent marker. Hopefully you can see that. We're sewing through this. Plus, it almost looks like cork, doesn't it? This hardened leather takes on the look of almost like looking like cork. It's crazy. And then we added this saddle grade leather to it. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. All right, here we go. All right, I'm going to breathe again now. I'm going to breathe after just trying that. I'm going to breathe. Good gravy. Good gravy. This is unbelievable. This is crazy. We should all be using air hoses to power our vintage sewing machines. It's got to be a combination of workshop magic and the automotive air hose that is running over this Swedish motor powering this white rotary machine, because we just went through a crazy amount of leather, a crazy amount of leather. And my initial glimpse is, are you kidding me? What? This is unbelievable. I mean, it's not unbelievable. You just saw it. You just saw it, for goodness sakes. So the top row is our single layer of this hardened 6-ounce leather. The bottom row is our second row that we just did, going through the hardened 6-ounce leather plus an additional layer of saddle grade leather. I don't know what you can see, but what I see is holy mastacholi. Those are page 34 stitches. Unbelievable stitch quality. Richard is going to be over the moon when I show this to him tomorrow around 11 o'clock Central Time when he comes to pick up this white rotary. And I'm going to have it set up right outside of the overflow area so he can come up in his wheelchair and he's going to be blown away. He's going to be utterly blown away. Unbelievable. Again, I'm going to turn it towards you a little bit. Look at what we went through. We went through the hardened 6-ounce leather, and then we added this extra saddle grade leather to it, and we got through both of those layers with only a little tiny hand start, barely a hand start at all. Let's take a look at the lock stitch. Now I'm going to spin it around. This is our lock stitching, again through probably about eight ounces of leather is what we're looking at. 8 ounces of leather. Look at again. I love the look of that that displacement of the leather as that huge harpoon needle slices through the leather, and it displaces that leather. It basically creates like a little poof. I think it's super cool. So can a household vintage sewing machine sew at a light industrial level? You bet your boots they can when they're set up properly and when they're given a little dose of workshop magic. This white rotary that is a household sewing machine is sewing like a light industrial machine going through this much leather. Absolutely unbelievable. Gorgeous lock stitching. Look at that. And off the charts top stitching. Off the charts top stitching. Well, I hope this was a pleasant surprise to you. If you got this notification and you were like, I thought Scott was done live streaming. I thought he was, he's in this big transition right now, which I am. But I didn't want to overlook the importance of what Richard is trying to do. I think any one of us, as we age, as we normally age, we're going to have physical limitations. As we age, we're going to have physical limitations. Our bodies are going to change. Certain things that we were able to lift up or twist and turn or kneel or whatever it is that we're trying to do, As we get older and older, it becomes more and more difficult. Folks that have different disabilities, and as they age, it's almost compounded some of the challenges that they face sometimes. But most of them that I've ever met have such a great attitude about life and such a courage and such a hunger for life. And they want to try new things like sewing leather with a white rotary machine. It's going to be such a huge encouragement to Richard as he looks and sees what his machine is capable of doing. And we've only touched the tip of the iceberg. I have no doubt that this machine will give even more surprises to Richard on what it's able to do as he gets more familiar with the machine and as he tests the water with the machine. And he'll be able to circle back to me and say, Scott, you thought it was impressive, and all of those in the audience thought it was impressive when you sewed that 6 ounces of hardened leather with that saddle grade leather combination. Guess what I've done since then? Guess what I've done successfully? And that's the magic of what an owner can bring to the equation because of the intimacy level that they have with that machine. They're able to accomplish things that just blow our mind. And even what we see tonight, to some extent, I mind in seeing what this white rotary with the real weird setup I have is able to do, what it's able to accomplish. So hopefully it broadens your horizons, and maybe as you look at maybe adding another machine to your personal collection, maybe you'll consider looking at rotary machines now and saying, "Wow, I want to see what mine will do," because it really it just it gives you a new respect for what these rotary machines are capable of doing. So, at any rate, that's all I wanted to show you. So I'm going to wrap it up. I don't know, with tomorrow being Friday, Saturday and Sunday are going to be my time to get ready for those movers to arrive on Monday morning early. And I've got to pack things, I've got to get things put away, uh, ready for them to load it onto the truck. And this may be our last live stream, but I certainly will shoot out little announcements through Facebook and maybe and throw something up on YouTube to let you know as I'm going through this transition, eventually where the lights will come on at the next Cow Country workshop. But I appreciate so much all of you. I just love the enthusiasm, the support. I'm so grateful for the leadership team and all that they do to take care of the family. It truly is. It's a humbling process to be a part of this classroom that we built in Oconto over the last 5 years, going on 6 years. We've covered so many machines, and I've shown you greatness over and over and over and over again, and opened up your eyes to new possibilities of what these vintage machines can do. And you've told me that you've been inspired to get a machine after seeing what that machine is able to do, and that's going to continue once I get to the new location. So keep watch on the horizon. Keep watch as I move towards that new location, and who knows, maybe I'll surprise you with pop-ups here and there. I've gotten invitations from a number of you that watch this channel about maybe setting up a temporary workshop at your location, and I'm still weighing that possibility. But in the meantime, just continue doing what you're doing with your machines and share your knowledge as a fellow teacher in circles of influence. Okay. All right. I'm going to end with some dance music, and God bless you. Okay. Take care.